What is going on, guys? Winner Kills here, and welcome to a brand new video. Today I'm going to be going over what my ban list predictions slash wants are for this upcoming October ban list. It's been quite a format, and I've been playing a lot, and in doing so I've learned and experienced not only what cards I think are very problematic, but a lot of other people's thoughts and opinions on what they believe are cards that just have got to go this upcoming list. And I think there's one or maybe two cards that is on everybody's mind, and we'll go ahead and talk about that here in just a moment. Before we jump into my predictions, I want to mention a quick shout out to Imperial Duelist. If you guys are interested in picking up some amazing sleeves, deck boxes, dice, playmats, and more, they got standard size sleeves and Yu-Gi-Oh size ones, so you can do double sleeving. They got those really nice border sleeves. I think they're going to restock very soon, so if you're interested in picking them up, check out the link to the website in the description, as well as my discount code WINNERKILLS10 off at checkout. You guys can use that to save 10% off your entire order and support the channel in the process. And if you guys are buying anything on TCG Player, maybe it's some new Megaton reprints, whatever it may be, don't forget to use my affiliate link down in the description below, because if you guys shop and check out using that link, a small bit of the revenue from your purchase will go right back into the channel, and it helps out a ton. And if you guys want to become a member of the channel today, click the blue join button below or at the link in the description. So let's go ahead and get started with the cards I would hope slash like to see banned. And the first card is Mystic Mine. Yeah, this is a card that every time someone has it dropped on them, they're instantly reminded that this card is at 3 and it's legal, and that it shouldn't be. It just creates very unfun game states that I don't think anybody is a fan of anymore at this point. We already had to see way back when this card was first introduced in the game, a card like Metaverse had to go to 1 because this card is so incredibly problematic with it at 3. Just being able to instantly shut your opponent's turn down the moment they put one monster over yours. It just, again, creates unfun game states and promotes some actually pretty, like, toxic and boring strategies like burn decks and decks that literally just exist to try to deck you out on the sole fact that you're not maining any spell and trap removal. This card is not fun. Nobody likes it. Why is it still at 3? I'm looking at you, Konami. That's my big question, right? And then next up we have Eva. Eva I have on here because I think this is like the most fair slash balanced hit to Drytron. Drytron, as we know, is the only deck in the format right now that is capable of ending on 6 Omni Negates, right? Because Herald of Ultimus is a pretty fun card. This is the card that makes what is a okay end board and makes it insane. Pitching this off of an Ultimus to negate a monster spell, trap, effect, or a special summon, and then activating Eva Engraved to go ahead and get an orange and a Diviner just takes 1 negate and turns it into essentially 2 more. And then if you add like another orange or 2 in the opening hand, or Ritual Monster, like, you just have the entire combo, and your opponent is literally going to watch as all their cards get negated, and they better hope they have a droplet or something to stop the Ultimus, or it's literally going to be, all right, go next game. So I think this is the fairest hit to Drytron. I think Drytron is still playable with this card banned 100%. Orange Light is still a card they're going to play in the deck, still a searchable card. This just takes it from being absolutely broken and absurd and tones it down a notch where I think it is entirely acceptable, because Drytron is one of those decks that still gets hindered by a lot of the hand traps that are mained consistently right now, and has a lot of great counters to it. Nibiru, Cycle Reader, DD Crow, all of that. Then we have Instant Fusion. This card I have on here for 2 reasons. The first being that Ready Fusion is now officially in the TCG, and I think that card is basically designed to replace this one. It is a much more balanced version of an old kind of broken slash abusable card. This card we saw at 3 for many a year, and then it got dropped down to 1. We saw cards like Norden abuse this card, and now it's basically becoming a Call by the Grave with Millenniumizer Strict. And we'll talk about Call by the Grave in a moment, but yeah, this card I think is just getting phased out because, again, we already have Ready Fusion in the meta, so it just basically turns a card like Instant Fusion from being an extender slash like way to stop hand traps to just being an extender, which I think is, again, more fair slash balanced. And Instant Fusion is essentially a second copy of Call by the Grave, which I think Call by the Grave is currently getting phased out by a card that just got announced in the tins today, which is Crossout Designator. So I think Instant Fusion is just going to get the axe to help sell Ready Fusion and that of Crossout Designator and Call by the Grave. I just kind of talked about it. This card, I think, is definitely going to go. Like, you don't want combo decks and just decks in general to have 3 Crossout, Call by, and an Instant Fusion. Yes, it takes up a slot in the extra deck, but it's a pretty valuable slot at that. Being able to put Millennium Eyes on the field to stop Drolls, Ashes, Bells, etc., Effect Veilers, whatever it may be, is really, really strong. So I think this card is going to go. Call by the Grave definitely is going to get the axe here, I think, just because Crossout Designator is the replacement to this card. Now, technically, Crossout Designator compared to Call by, I think, is a very similar comparison to like how we view Instant Fusion and Ready Fusion. They both do similar things, but one does it sort of like a little less effectively. Arguably, maybe Crossout Designator is a little more busted than Call by. But they, again, of course, want to sell the tins. They want people to buy Crossout Designator, and Call by the Grave, I just don't think is going to stay in the game once that card is officially released. Or by the time it is released, this card will be banned. So yeah, because like Crossout, like you kind of have to change your deck building a little bit. Like if you want to be able to stop Nibiru's, if your deck loses hard to Nibiru, you have to play Nibiru. Whether you want to or not is one thing, but if you want to stop it, you need to have the Nibiru in deck to be able to send to negate their Nibiru. Maybe you're really worried about Droll and Lockbird, right? You have to main Droll and Lock. Whereas Call by is just like, oh, you use that card, it's in your grave, I'm going to negate it, and that's that, basically. So Call by, I think, is, like, in some ways a little more broken than Crossout, just because I think it's easier to activate, and you don't have to kind of build your deck around it, whereas Crossout has that trade-off where you have to kind of build your deck around it, but also at the same time, it can just negate any card instead of just being a monster. Then Imperial Order I have banned, just because, like, again, similar to the Mystic Mine, or I love how it's still called Spell Mining Cave on here. Similar to Mystic Mine, this card is very, very sacky and creates unfun game states where some decks will literally outright lose if they draw an entire handful of spells, which is not uncommon for some decks. A lot of decks play spells in this day and age. It's not really surprising to see if somebody opens this and it is just a complete sack, resulting in an instant game loss. Yes, this card is a little bit more balanced because of the errata it had a few years back, but like it's so insane. I personally would like to see it go, and I think a lot of people would like to see it go as well. Then we have Anaconda. Yes, Dragoon, taking your last 2 monsters. You hand trap me. Shame on you. I'm going into an Anaconda. Here's a Dragoon. Good luck outing this. If Anaconda couldn't summon something like Dragoon, I would say, hey, it's fine, but Dragoon exists. It is a Dark Magician card, so I don't think it is going to get touched on the ban list for that specific reason, and I think getting rid of Anaconda makes more sense. Now, I know a lot of people are like, hey, what about all the fusion decks that take advantage of this card, like Cyber Dragon, for example? Like, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. Maybe they'll ban Red Eyes Fusion. Maybe not. Maybe they'll ban Dragoon. I highly doubt that. I think Anaconda just makes the most sense. They'll probably either have to print some other card that, you know, kind of works the same way, but is a little less busted and more fair. Kind of like how we see Instant Fusion to Ready Fusion. But also, speaking of Anaconda, we have the Phoenix Enforcer card coming out in Burst of Destiny, and everybody's going to be playing Fusion Destiny. And we're going to basically, like, if Dragoon or Red Eyes Fusion gets the axe and this card is still around, we're literally going to see this card just be abused by the next best fusion. And of course, that next best fusion is already here, because if it's not Dragoon, it's only a matter of time before another fusion comes out, and we're already at that point. So I think you just got to cut it off at the head, and this is the way to do it. And Winda, I didn't talk about Winda in the last ban list video, just because I don't know, I didn't feel like Winda was becoming a huge problem because nobody was really playing the Invoke strategy, but that does not take away the fact how accessible Winda is with the Dogmatica engine and app alone, and the fact that this is a 22/3200 indestructible Vanity's Emptiness, essentially. And it is so incredibly accessible, so splashable too. It doesn't just have to be an Invoke Dogmatica deck. It could be any deck that can splash an Invoked slash Dogmatica engine, right? That's all it takes at the end of the day. So I think Winda does have to go, because it does, again, create some very unfair and just like extremely oppressive game states. Now we're going to go ahead and take a look at Limited here. This is just kind of like, I feel like, balancing the format out and giving some older decks some more help. I think this is what the format would need. Again, I don't think I would like to see most of the stuff happen, but like Konami is Konami. Sometimes they are unpredictable. So the first card here I have is limited is Orcus Harporer. We saw Mirage Stalio come back last ban list, and we saw Engage come back. So why is Horror not back on the list? I don't understand. I think this card should definitely come back. Orcus is basically unplayable currently. The least you could do is give them a Harporer. Then we have TriBrigade Revolt. This is the most insane card in the entire TriBrigade strategy. Yes, you could hinder the deck by hitting tanky to 1, but I just don't think that's like as effective as taking a card like Revolt and hitting it to 1. The fact that they can Revolt on your turn, get a non-target banish, and then, you know, if they summon out a Bear Brum off this, they can just go ahead and search another Revolt for next turn, and the cycle continues. I feel like having the one and done is good, because, like, yes, they can still continue to grind even if they use their one Revolt, because they can still, you know, load their graveyard back up for the next turn to make more link plays and climb into something like Access Code or Boral Sword, whatever it may be. So I think Revolt going to 1 is fine. Virtual World City Kowloon. This is a card I, like, couldn't really feel comfortable with, like, not putting on here if I'm putting on things like Revolt, Meltdown, Meow Meow, and a card like Winda, right? I feel like we want to kind of just take every deck down a notch, and, you know, make everything, like the overall power level of everything in the format just kind of settle down just a little bit without actually killing any deck. If you're going to hit Revolt to 1, I think Kowloon going to 1 is completely fine, although I don't really think this needs to happen. I think VW is, in general, a pretty, in quotes, fair deck. Shen is pretty absurd, very, very oppressive. They can protect it a number of ways, and it can just come back on following turns. So, like, I mean, if you want to hit the deck, I think this is the way to do it. Magical Meltdown. This card, we've seen time and time again prove itself why it is so absurd, because it has a line of text on it that says, and I'm sure you guys know what that line of text is: the activation of your cards and effects that include an effect that fusion summons a fusion monster cannot be negated, but wait, it gets better. Also, your opponent's cards and effects cannot activate when a monster is fusion summoned this way. This card is extremely oppressive. For example, activation all fusion with Meltdown up. You know, you can't respond, you can't ash it, right? And then you make Apgalone. And then maybe you send Wendy Dragon, right? Chainlink 1 Apgalone, Chainlink 2 Wendy, Chainlink 3 Dragon to pop a back row. You cannot respond to any of those things. It is absurd. Because all of those things are happening in the same window as, you know, the monster being summoned. Like, it's crazy. And it just goes, you can do it with Rajin, you can do it with Evoked Algodes, like, you name any fusion monster you can summon that has an effect on summon, like, Meltdown just makes that interaction just so much more crazy. And then speaking of hitting all the better decks right now, Praying Kids Meow Meow to 1 definitely hurts their grind game. It forces them to either make a trade-off of, like, you know, do I want to use it now to get the double board wipe, or do I want to save it, right, and put it back in the extra deck with Pranks, and, you know, try to be able to have an easy way to start my engine next turn with having access to a Link 1, right? So, like, I think Meow Meow going to 1 is a decent hit for the deck, because, again, you have to make that decision, like, do I want the double board wipe or do I want the follow-up? And, of course, even if they don't have it for a follow-up, it doesn't matter, because they still have triple Cockadoodle-Doo, which is a card that I was also going to put on here instead of Meow Meow, but I guess, you know, either or will probably do a good job at hindering the deck. And then last but not least, Unlimited, Sekka's Light. There's probably a couple other cards you can put on here, but I think Sekka's Light right now is fine. You could argue any of the other Monster Mash decks that exist right now could benefit from this. I've heard Thunder Dragon be one example, but Sekka's Light is already legal at 1. If Block Dragon BA can be as crazy as it was with 1 Sekka's Light, you know, I don't see why, if people are playing Thunder right now and be such a problem, why not just play 1, and what does 2 more in the deck make a difference of? Honestly, I don't see it making a huge difference, but I could be wrong. But that is going to do it for this video. Those are my hopes and wants for the upcoming ban list. If you guys want to check out more of my content, click on one of the videos down on the bottom of the screen right now, and let me know what you guys think about my predictions in the comments below, and I want to see yours as well. We'll see you guys in the next one. And last but not least, a huge shout out goes to our Divine level channel members, and they are Cadillacs84, Pony Star, Keith Sidgers, and Daryl Best. Thank you guys so much for your extremely generous support of this channel.